Cleaning of a rimfire 22. First thing we'll do, check the action is clear. Remove the bolt, remove the magazine and visually check. Yes, it's definitely unloaded and it's clear. So for the next part, I use a piece of cloth about this size, just a bit bigger than a 50-cent piece for 22, I've found works. I use that industrial grade paper towel. It's like rag, but it's paper. I find it to work really well. And then I pull it through, and that's ready to go up in the bore. This part here is the bore guide. I use that as I'm pushing it up the bore, which you'll see me do, to keep it in the middle of the bore as I go up. Now that I've cleared the firearm and pulled the bolt out, I'll run the rag up first. The rag goes up first to remove any burnt and unused powder. Get rid of all the heavy powder first. The bore guide goes in like that. There's the bore guide there, and that keeps the rod in the middle as I push it up the bore, and push it all the way through until the rag comes out, and then pull the rag off. As you can see, it's quite dirty from coming out the bore. So now we'll go ahead and put the wire brush up with some bore cleaner on it. I've now put on the copper brush. This is .22 caliber copper brush, and I've got my bore guide again on. I'll now put it in my cleaning solution. This is a cleaning solution I use. It's quite cost effective. It's known as Ed's Red. It's used pretty much everywhere. It's just acetone, automatic transmission fluid, kerosene and shallite, all equal parts cost and effective. Okay, so I'll dunk it in the cleaner, and then I'll run it up the bore all the way through. Go all the way through, don't pull back, go all the way out and then all the way back, because it can do damage to your brush. I'll give it another dunk and I'll do it again. Up and back. I'll do 3 times just to make sure I've got it nice and clean. I don't use copper solvent on 22s because they're a lead projectile, and I've found that it can take your accuracy away using copper solvent, removing the lead fouling from your bore. All we want to remove is burnt powder from the bore. If I was using a centerfire rifle with copper jacketed ammunition, I would need to use a much harsher cleaner than Ed's Red. I would use a copper solvent. I would put copper solvent on the brush and work it up the bore 3 or 4 times with the copper solvent on it, and leave the bore for 20 minutes to allow the copper solvent to break down the copper and remove the copper from in the rifling, and then run the brush again another 3 to 4 times to scratch out all of the old copper, and then run the rags through until the rags come perfectly clean. Then put the mop with the gun oil. Okay, so I've now put the jag back on again with my rag, and we're now going to remove all the heavy excess from the bore. Put my bore guide down, pull the rag back through. Now you'll notice now that rag is quite dirty. See how it's taken all that dirt out of the bore? We're going to keep going until that rag is clean, and then you'll know that it's right. A little trick that I do, in here, in the start of the bore, you can get false readings as the paper and the rag goes up and touches the outside edge of the bore. So I use a little bit of contact cleaner and just give it a light spray on the inside of the bore, just to clean it out. And then I know that that surface there is clean. Now I'll go up with my clean rag until it comes clean up the bore. It's still dirty, but you just keep going until it gets cleaner. I've gone through now about 6 times. That's as clean as I can get it. The rag's quite clean. I'm happy with that. So after all our cloth rags up the bore, we've got it clean. Now we'll put the oily mop up it to put a nice film of oil up the bore to protect the rifling. I'll get my gun oil, put a light film of oil on the mop, and then run it up the bore. So I push the mop up the bore without touching the mop on any of the receiver, using my bore guide up the bore all the way out and then back through. So now the bore is oiled up nicely, nice film of oil. Just remember before you shoot the rifle that you put a cloth jag up the bore all the way through to take all the oil out, so you've got a clean bore for no barrel obstructions when you go shooting. So now we've done the rifle, we'll move on now to cleaning the bolt and the magazine, just giving them a wipe over. You can strip these magazines down, fully field strip, but I won't show you in this video here. You would just take the base off of this, clean it all out, give it a very light clean, very light oil, not too much as oil collects dust and dirt, and then put it back together. We're going to clean the bolt and the magazine. And like I said, this is just a basic clean that I do each time after using my rifle. I'll drop the bolt down so it's uncocking the firing pin. The firing pin's pushing forward. I don't want to get much of the cleaner inside the firing pin, because when the cleaner dries it leaves a light film of the automatic transmission fluid. We don't want oil in there. So I'll wipe it down. This is the rag that's in the Ed's red cleaner. Just taking off all the heavy dirt, giving it a clean. And now I use these little brushes. You can pick these up from Bunnings for next to nothing. This is a plastic one. This is a bronze brush. So we can use the bronze brush in the cleaner and just give it a good clean. That's why I'm using the gloves. It's not good to get these chemicals on your hands. Just give it a good clean like that. Now I'll finish off with a plastic one. See, I don't want that stuff, much of that, to get inside the firing pin. But what I do now is I always blow it off with the contact cleaner, because the contact cleaner gets rid of any oil that goes inside the firing pin. I'll recock it and then clean out in the hole like that. So I know there's definitely no oil now in the firing pin, and the extractors are clean. So I've cleaned all of that. So now I wipe it down clean like that. And when you're putting oil on a bolt, very minimal. I just put a little couple of drops like that, rub it over it, and then wipe it off with a rag. Very minimal oil on the bolt. So that's the bolt clean, ready to go back in the rifle. The magazine, I just clean off all the powder fouling with the Ed's red cleaner. That's literally all I do, and wipe it off with the oily rag, just like that. So the magazine's clean. For the rest of the firearm, a bit more of me cleaner. I just wipe best I can on the inside, because it is pretty clean, because I cleaned it out with contact cleaner in the bore before. Wipe it down like that, all over. my oily rag. I'll put a couple of drops of oil on the oily rag and then wipe the whole, every metal part down with the oily rag, so wherever you touch doesn't rust, like that. All on the trigger guard, under the bottom here. I now put my bolt back in. Put my magazine back in. That's how you clean a rimfire 22.